Welcome to the channel.
Why, thank you.
And you are Diane Klassen.
I am.
And you are a professor at ENMUR in the business department. Is that right?
I am the business department.
You're the business department.
I am.
But when did you first get hired in the district? What was the...
Well, in the Roswell schools, I got hired in about 1977. So I am archaic. And I was hired as the public relations person in the central office.
Yeah.
For the whole district. So that was good because my original major was mass communications or television.
Right.
Radio television. You know, when radio television was radio television.
Right. Right.
Now it's CNN. Now it's on all the time.
Yeah, now it's on all the time, and you're going to be on my YouTube channel. So in a way, you're returning to your roots here.
Forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Forever on the internet.
Yes, on the interweb.
Yeah, that's right.
So you knew Fred Pomeroy.
He was my first boss.
Yeah.
And when I got out of school, I was working for an accounting firm as file room. Before they stored everything digitally, they had to have files. And so the accountants would take a file and nobody'd know what happened. So I ran the file room. And I mean, it was all the way around, files and copies. And so they could not take a file unless they got it from me. And they had to return it to me. And then I put it back where it went, alphabetically, so we could find it again. So it was interesting.
Right. But not necessarily in the area that you'd taken training in.
No.
Yeah.
But I was living at home with my parents, and Dr. Pomeroy called and asked if I'd like to come for an interview. And I told him, no, I'm working for minimum wage as a file room clerk. Why would I do that? And he persisted and said, would you come to my home in the evening? And I said, yes, I will. So he hired me as a half-time PR person for the Roswell schools. And then I also worked at Sears in the catalog department.
Right.
So that I had my time split. And the next year, he hired me full-time. So I worked there about 3 years. And then he went to Alaska.
Right.
And then I went to the college and started the distance education program, which was, we called it instructional television fixed service, which meant it operated on towers. From a tower here to the Cap Rock to, I'm not sure where all the towers were, but it wasn't fiber. It was in the air.
Yeah, it was radio
I
waves.
guess, you know, we called it the College of the Air. That's what we called it. And so we had classes here on our campus, and we had classes in Hobbs at New Mexico Junior College.
Wow.
And that's the only two places at the time. And of course now with having fiber, you can send it anywhere.
Right. Now, would students enroll in the class, or was it just presented?
No, the students actually came to class, and we established classrooms, and the speakers were all in the ceiling. So you would sit in class, because I took my whole master's for my MBA by instructional television. And so you would sit there, the professor could see you, but you couldn't see, let me think about this. I guess we could see each other, of course we could. He could see us and hear us, but in order to speak, he'd ask a question. Roswell, what do you think about this certain something? And we'd have to push a button and go, and it would go beep, and he'd be alerted that we were going to speak, and then we would speak, and it would go through microphones in the ceiling.
Wow.
So it was interesting.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot about instructional television.
Right.
And actually got to go visit, when we decided to try fiber, which I mean that was big, they had to lay fiber cable all over New Mexico.
Right.
So if you lived here very long, you know how remote we are. And they had to dig holes, you know, and lay that fiber. And so we did that. So that was our next thing, was fiber cable. Still, we were in Roswell and Hobbs, and I guess then we hooked up Ruidoso. And of course at that time, part of Eastern was also Clovis. So we had Eastern in Portales, Eastern in Clovis, Eastern at the various outlying sites, and in Roswell.
Right. So did you took classes that way?
I did, and I was a distance ed person.
And you taught classes that way?
I hadn't started teaching until
Oh, okay.
I got my master's, because you had to have a master's degree. So I started working there in 80, got my master's in 82, and then started, I was full-time as the public relations, no, I'm sorry, that was the last job, as the distance ed person, but I also taught part-time at night, and of course it was when we had face-to-face classes. So, yes, it was very different. We should go back to some of those things now. People actually came to campus, and
Right.
we would teach face-to-face, and some of those classes were also broadcast to those other campuses. So that was good, but with instructional television, people could actually start getting their degree by not having to travel to Portales several nights a week.
Right.
Because we used to have to drive that highway and go to class, come back, get ready, go to work the next day.
Right.
So those students of today have it too easy. It's so easy now that they don't appreciate it, I don't think.
Right. They're less likely.
They just
Well,
expect it.
right. I think, so one of the things that I think happens is when you decide to get your master's, because I had a similar situation. When you decide to get your master's and you have to commute to get your master's, as an adult, you have to sit down and really consider, am I ready to make this commitment?
Oh yeah.
Because it's going to be hours on the road, it's going to require so much discipline on my part that once you've gone through and thought it all out, then you're ready for the challenge and you're more likely to get the work done because you've really had to consider it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas now, it's so easy that people don't think about the fact that it's still going to take a lot of time, a lot of commitment, a lot of discipline.
And you actually have to read the book.
Yes, and you have to do the work. And so some people that haven't considered that as deeply as they should jump in and immediately go, nope.
Jump out.
Yeah.
Well, I got my doctorate by traveling to UNM in Albuquerque.
Wow.
So I had to drive to Albuquerque. And I started that when I was 48. Maybe I finished when I was 48. I don't remember. No, I think I started when I was in my 40s. Anyway, had to drive to Albuquerque.
Yeah.
And we went to school Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. And then you drove home. And then you did work. And this was once a month.
Wow.
And then you did your work, but there was no internet. It was before the internet. And in fact, while I was getting my doctorate, we got email. Oh, it was so exciting to have email
Right.
at school.
Yeah.
But if you tried to do work on, like, check out a book online from UNM, oh my gosh, the internet was dial-up.
Yes, the dial-up modems.
By the time you got through to UNM and chose your book and everything, you get knocked off. So you wouldn't get to check the book out. So, yeah, things have really changed.
Yeah, yeah.
Gee, I feel like I grew up before they went to the moon, but I didn't. I grew up while they were going to the moon.
Well, yeah, you were still a kid when they got to the moon, weren't you? You're still a kid then.
Yeah, I can't remember. It was 1960.
69 was
Was it
when they got
69?
to the moon.
Okay, so 69, yeah, no, in 69.
You were a kid.
I was born in 54, so.
Yeah, you were still a kid.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
They landed on the moon on my uncle's 50th birthday.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he has long since
Gone
gone
on.
on.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting that you did all that traveling to get that degree, to get that studying done. So now you're Professor Klassen.
Mm-hmm.
Do you like it? Is it a good job?
I love it. It's probably the best job I ever had. And, oh yeah. I started teaching part-time in 1982 and still had my full-time job because I worked 12 months. Then in about, Oh, 2010, I had already worked 33 years, so I retired. And 2 years later, somebody asked me to come and teach a class. And I said, nah, okay, I'll come out. But it was not a class I had taught before. It was keyboarding.
Huh.
We also taught keyboarding, and you guys need to learn keyboarding. And now they don't teach that anymore.
They don't.
Crazy. You can take it as a choice, you know, like Word and those classes. It's very important. I mean, I had to type my own dissertation.
Yeah.
And it was using a computer and a keyboard, but I knew how.
Yeah.
And now people go like this.
I know.
So anyway, I said, well, I won't teach that class unless I take it first. So I took it in the summer, so I know exactly what it was, and then I started teaching it in the fall. Well, before I even started teaching, the head of the department came down and he said, would you like to teach full-time this year? And I'm like, what? He said, well, somebody quit, and so we need a full-time teacher. Would you like to be a temporary teacher for a year?
Wow.
And I said, what do you think? You think I should do it? He goes, well, yes. And I said, okay. So I really learned on the job like teachers do, because I started teaching microeconomics, macroeconomics, marketing, management, entrepreneurship, and I teach accounting as well. I don't teach the actual accounting. I teach the accounting where we place students in jobs.
Oh.
And that is after they've finished certain classes. It really should be a culminating class for the degree or the certificate.
Right.
And we place them at accounting firms. And so it's an internship. That's
yeah,
what
like
it
a
is.
practicum.
Yeah. So I learned how to teach all those classes.
Wow.
But I had taken all those classes, so I had a clue, but I hadn't taught those classes. So it was rough. That first year, I kept thinking I was going to die. And people would tell me, you're not going to die. And I said, I think I might die. And they go, oh, you're not going to die. And so now I've so I was temporary for 3 years. And then they opened the job, and 19 people applied. And I thought, oh, I'm not going to get this job. Too many people are applying from all over the United States. And they ended up hiring me.
Right.
So I finished my doctorate in 10. Before I retired, I finished my doctorate. Then I said, that's it, I'm not going to do anything. So I went to work at Walmart. Don't do that. It was okay. It was just different.
You went to work at Walmart?
In 2010 and 2012, I was a vendor in Walmart.
What is that?
And I didn't even know what a vendor was. But it was really fun. And I don't know how they do it now, but probably similarly. You go in, you know where that the desk is where you take things back? Well, they had a book there, and you worked for another company that put the product in Walmart. So I didn't work for Walmart. I worked for several other companies.
Oh.
And so one of my main jobs was dealing with all the video games. And I didn't even know those video games were there. Call of Duty and all those kind of fun games the kids play on the internet.
Right.
Of course, at the time, they were just on CD, right? And then they became on the internet. So I would... they had a big section in Walmart behind glass because people would steal them.
Right.
And every week they would send out I call it like a map. What did they call it? I don't know what they called it. But they'd send out, how do I want you to rearrange this product this week?
The schematic.
Yeah, they called it something different. Let's see. But anyway, so we would put the stuff in order so that you had to find it again. You know, you as the customer had to go, where's that Call of Duty? And then you'd see all the other ones we had. And then when a new game came out, we'd have a party at midnight and get a cake, and the kids would come to play, and whoever won got to keep that new game.
Oh my goodness.
So that was pretty exciting.
That's fantastic.
So it was fun. And then I went back to college, where when you come from education, usually you go back to education because that's what you know.
Well, and there is a lot of satisfaction in it, even when it's frustrating.
Yes. Oh,
Because
yeah.
it is frustrating. We all know that.
But I got that full-time job even as a temp. So I've
Mhm.
been there since 2012, and now it's 2025. So
Yeah. So 13 years.
been there a long time, and now it's pretty easy. I know what I'm doing exactly. I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm gonna get you. So it's good, and so I'm gonna start teaching summer school on Monday.
Oh, wow.
So
Yeah, you're serious.
Oh yeah,
That's
we
serious.
were off May the 9th. We had graduation, and now we'll have summer school starting. I guess that's the very first Monday in June. I'm not sure what the date is, but it's next Monday, and that'll go on for 8 weeks. And then right away after that, about a week later, we'll have the fall will start.
Yeah, yeah.
So
So, okay, so here comes the big question. What advice, because you teach teachers,
I do teach teachers.
what one little bit of advice would you give a teacher who's going out into the world of teaching? What would you tell them?
Don't go. No, I wouldn't say don't go. I'd say go, but know what you're getting into. And I would certainly substitute teach first.
Oh, really?
I would.
Oh,
I always
okay.
suggest that to people. You have to have a certain number of credit hours before you can substitute. But why would you want to go through a whole program, 4 years, and then walk into the public schools and not know what you're getting into?
Right.
So, substitute teach. I know a teacher whose daughter is studying to become a teacher. She has been substituting the whole time. She has been fortunate enough to get her degree at Eastern New Mexico University, Portales. This is an advertisement. And all her classes were either online or on TV. And so she's been able to work full time. She's already saved $40,000.
Good for her.
And that's a lot of money.
Yeah, that is a lot of money.
And she's like 21, 22. So she's going to graduate, and then she'll be a teacher, but she's got that experience, and she knows that that's where she wants to go.
Yeah.
So do something, babysit, work in the nursery at church, be around kids, and then go into the schools and do some subbing so you know exactly what you're facing.
Right. And you know what? My mother and father both went to Eastern Portales.
All right.
Yep. It took Mother 52 years to graduate.
Wow.
She started really far back and stopped and then came back.
My parents didn't have that privilege of going to college, so that was their goal, for their children to each have a college degree. So my dad always said that he had 3 masters and 2 slaves. They were the slaves because they're the ones who helped us go through school. They had to pay, and we all got our masters, so that was good.
Yeah, yeah.
And my sister was a teacher, and my brother is a finance whiz.
Yeah. So you all are kind of woven together in a way, because you all are dealing with numbers too.
Right.
Because
right.
she's a math teacher, you're in business,
Right.
and he's in business.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, he works for the federal government.
Ooh.
He was one of the people who he did not choose to retire or quit his job
Yeah, when the Doge hit.
during the Trump administration,
Yes.
which is still going on. And we love our president. I love our president.
Okay.
Anyway,
Okay.
I do love
Settle
it.
down.
I do love it. But downsizing is never easy,
No.
but it was necessary. Don't get me started.
Yes.
It was very necessary.
So I think on that we've got a good interview.
All right. Well, thank
Okay.
you so much.
So thank you for being here. You're such a good sport to come and do
Let
this.
me entertain you.
Yes. Diane.